All right, so hi everyone, my name is Casey, and I have been hearing this phrase more and more lately at work and elsewhere. Now I don't need to bug someone. All right, so in what context? Rather than setting up a meeting to brainstorm something, I don't need to bug someone now because I can just turn to a large language model and get about 4,000 new ideas, and I can do it myself. I don't need to bug someone. Or better yet, the slides are coming in, hold on. Rather than reaching out to my wonderful research partners to ask for some sort of recent synthesis of all of the research that they've done, I can turn to one of our many wonderful tools and get not only my answers or a good enough answer, but I get an infographic and an explainer video and everything just in an instant, or maybe a podcast, who knows. Or, and I've heard this one more and more, rather than having to reach out to a designer to get some sort of key screens that I need for a pitch deck, I could have AI go vibe code this thing, and I've got a good enough example that I can take and get to the VC and get the money and all the rest. So what I'm saying is we're becoming a bug-free workforce. We don't have to bug each other as much anymore. And in a lot of ways, that's a value add, right? We can do more. We have a bigger toolkit that we can, our roles expand. However, I think of this quote from Sherry Turkle, and she says, "We expect more from technology and less from each other." And I have to wonder, what does that mean if we're connecting less at work? Because we turn to AI first. And as belonging to a team and as a leader of a team, I wonder, what does this mean for team cohesion and team dynamics if we take this forward? So I looked around different research to try to understand what makes for a good team. And there was a study a few years ago that Google did. It was called Project Aristotle. And they took 180 teams and they looked across the company and they said, which ones are high performing and why? What are the commonalities between all of them? And what they found, one of the big takeaways, and probably you've heard this before, is that psychological safety was the #1 predictor of high performance. The teams that felt like they could take chances or push back or experiment and fail, they were the ones that would do the best. Now, if we have less of a reason to connect with one another and build trust and have these kind of low-stakes interactions, is that psychological safety threatened at all if we're not bugging each other? So let's look at another one. So at MIT, they studied same thing. They looked around which teams are high performing and why. And they said a team's energy and engagement outside of formal meetings were the best predictors of productivity. So how you connect and you know your colleagues when it's not a daily stand-up or a sync. They did an experiment, and they took a call center, and in the control group, they had everyone, for efficiency's sake, take their coffee break throughout the day. They staggered it. It was more efficient that way. Then in the experimental group, they had everyone take it at the same time. So everyone for 15 minutes, they can have small chit-chat, how was your weekend, etc. They found afterwards in measurements of engagement and energy and efficiency that the teams in the experimental groups that just had time to get to know their colleagues better and bug them and have this rapport would do 8 to 22% better. So could you say, again, back to the main point, if we're not connecting as much, what are we missing in the workplace? How is the team not performing as well? Now let's look at it in another angle. So research has shown that people are using AI as therapists, as companions, as friends. But another one that's coming up is using AI as a business coach or as a mentor or as someone to run ideas by in your career. I am guilty of this. I do this. I have more than once gone to a large language model and said, I'm trying to make this decision at work, or here's our career ladder, how do I get to the next step, etc. And what's happening when I'm turning to the large language model? I'm not reaching out to some of my wonderful mentors that have spoken today already on the stage. I'm not reaching out to them who I know have my best interest at heart to get that feedback. I am also taking away the opportunity for Gavin and Noel to crystallize their knowledge and pass down that mentorship to the next level. And I'm removing the opportunity for Noel Childs to tell me to get my act together like he used to when I worked for him. All right, one more study. So at McKinsey, they did a study of why do people stay, why do people leave companies, and one of the many factors was maybe see where I'm going with this, was the adequacy of reliability of the support of the people at work. And if you're not connecting to them, there's a higher chance to leave, and just think of the ripple effects and the impacts on the company that way. So what do you do? If you're noticing this at work, if you follow my thesis, let me actually wrap it up first. So what I'm saying is great teams live in the spaces between people, and using solo AI, it optimizes those spaces away, or it disrupts those opportunities for us to connect and grow and thrive as a team. So what do? I have 3 ideas, some from my own research and some that's out there. So maybe you saw this study, it came out, AI brain fry, kind of went around. It's exactly what it sounds like. The more you use AI, the more scattered you are, the less effective you are, you're kind of overwhelmed by it. And in that study, there was also a section where they had people use AI in a very specific way. They said, just focus on the toil. Find the parts of your job that are toilsome, that are highly manual, and then delegate it to AI. And the more you can do that, they found that it was a 15% decrease in burnout because more people had time to connect socially with their peers and have time off keyboard, they said. So number 1, focus on the toil. What parts of your job can AI do well and take off your plate? Second, taking inspiration from Pixar, Steve Jobs famously helped design their original studio. And the wisdom of it is that the placement of the cafeteria and the tables and the bathrooms and the offices were all designed in such a way that people would have to run into each other throughout the day from different departments. Brad Bird, who created The Incredibles, he said, Steve realized that when people run into each other, when they make eye contact, things happen. So what can we take from that? Let's create productive friction. How do we build the systems that we're a part of, or how can we do things within our companies that actually bring us back to one another that AI perhaps threatens to separate? This is the most tactical recommendation I'll give. So more and more companies are rolling out internal agents, or there's more offerings this way, where if I want to ask a question from our database, I can get the answer. Really nice, it's really easy to synthesize. What I've seen working, though, is in the setup or the system prompt of when people are doing it, if you can, for example, if I'm asking a research synthesis, you can actually say, oh, did you know, that's great, here's the answer, but here's the person who worked on it. Or, oh, you have an interest in that feature, Keenan was the designer on it, you should go talk to him. This actually happened to me yesterday where someone reached out because our system referenced me. It's something small, but it's a way to get us to bump back into each other. Second, holding panel discussions. Actually bring this out into the open. We've done cross-functional talks where, what is it like to be a product manager now, and what's it like to work with a designer or an engineer if we can all do a little bit of each other's job? And how does that change? So actually having panel discussions about it has been a nice way as well. And then finally, this quote I really like, and it kind of sums up my feeling here, is laughter is the shortest distance between two people. This is by Victor Borge, he was a comedian. And the reason I bring it up is I think that you can get so much humor out of AI, adding levity with AI. So a team that laughs together stays together. I've never worked on a strong team that didn't have a strong sense of humor and inside jokes and callbacks. Now, one man's slop is another man's team builder here, but I feel like there's a lot of opportunities to use these tools of videos and music and all the rest. I occasionally have the wonderful honor of promoting people on my team, and I like to take it as an opportunity to use these tools. So here's one of them. Oh, I swear. Okay, so it's a news article. There was audio here. There's a news recording of them announcing this new announcement. It was, okay, there you go. Another one, I was able to create this 2D game that someone can go through and learn all about their promotion. So it's a way to use AI, and again, to build the team and bring people together. Finally, something we do, or we have done, are different vibe coding competitions of who can design the worst thing. And we, I hope the audio works for this one because it's important. But a member of my team, Michael Grover, he created something where the challenge was who can develop the worst volume control. And here's what he did. All right, so his version here, I'm going to explain. You have to yell into it, and then when you yell, you can lock the volume level that you want. So if you shout really loudly, you're like, this is how loud I want my music to be. He was able to do it. We all got a good laugh out of it, and it was a fun activity. So that was a good way. All right, so in closing here, I think of this quote as well from the media theorist Marshall McLuhan. And he says, we shape our tools and then our tools shape us. And I feel that, again, we're in this rush to use these tools as we should be. It's part of the modern workforce. But what is it doing to us? And maybe we don't even realize it until it's a little bit past the point. I think the teams that pair artificial intelligence with emotional intelligence are the ones that will thrive, the ones that are considering how this is impacting the way that we connect, that will actually be the ones that are the most productive and most able to navigate this coming world that we're in. So a few ideas, as I mentioned. How do you focus on the toil? Create productive friction, and then as much as you can, add levity with AI. So in closing, when you go back to work and you're tempted to turn to a large language model to get an answer, to create something new, just think, is there someone you could reach out to and bug? So thank you so much. Appreciate it.